This March is a super interesting blend of energies asking us to stick to our long-term goals without enacting them necessarily in this present moment. By watching this video, you can definitely better understand what might seem like a pretty hazy few weeks. If you are excited to dive into this full informative overview of what March has in store astrologically for us as a collective, and touch on a bit of tarot insight at the end, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you never miss what the stars have in store for you. Hi, I'm Maren, a professional astrologer, current college student, and witch proudly out of the broom closet. I've been practicing and studying astrology for most of my life, and my practice now is based around Hellenistic traditional techniques and rationale blended with modern psychological counseling dynamics. This video is also brought to you by Rashi Collective. Rashi is my newly launched platform connecting spiritual practitioners with their ideal clients. So if you are an astrologer, tarot reader, Reiki healer, acupuncturist, etc., post your services, and those of us who are looking to get our energetic needs met can find those so we can really ground the woo and connect spiritual practitioners with their ideal clients to facilitate healing for all of us on this ascension spiritual path in a practical way. All the information is down below if you're interested in joining us in this community. So I have already made these in-depth videos for each sign for March 2020. So if you have not seen your sign itself for that video, the playlist will be linked down below for you to watch what your sign specifically will be going through. You can watch that video after you finish this one to get an overview and then see how that's gonna be coming up for you for your sign. They're by rising sign, by the way, because that is the accurate way to read horoscopes or forecasts. If you want to know an in-depth video about why the rising sign is literally basically the only sign that makes sense to read for, do comment down below that you would love a video understanding why you should watch and read horoscopes for your rising sign. So we're gonna go through the important transits one by one and highlight what collective energy that's representing, because as you see, I speak about astrology very signally, not causally, so I will be talking about how these are reflecting back what's happening, not causing it. I just always like to put that as a disclaimer because I do like to teach the philosophy and rationale as I delineate. So on the 3rd, Venus in Aries will square Saturn in Capricorn, and this is an interesting aspect of Venus being in her antithesis, in her exile in Aries, because she's in the opposite sign to the one that she rules, so she has a lack of resources to facilitate her harmonious signification in an aspect of tension with Saturn, who represents boundaries, limitations, and challenges, very strong in Capricorn. So the month of March is starting out with this dynamic of not having an ability to meet our needs and to fulfill our comforts because of these outside limitations that are asking us to kind of suck it up and go at it in this Venusian Aries way of kind of forcing the smile and getting after what we need to get after without fully feeling like we might have our head on our shoulders yet, and knowing that for right now we're gonna have to buckle up and get with it even if the parameters around us feel a bit rigid. On the 7th, Venus will then conjoin Uranus in Taurus. Venus will ingress into Taurus and conjoin Uranus. Venus in Taurus is in her home sign. She's going from a place of exile in Aries into a home in Taurus. When a planet is in their home sign, it's the most comfortable that they could be because they are their own host and they know exactly how to fulfill their own needs. So Venus in the yin sign of Taurus is harmonizing through receiving sensual pleasures and through allowing equilibrium to happen. Venus and Taurus conjoining Uranus is kind of like finding what will bring you utmost harmony in a really radical new way. Uranus is lightning, revolutionary energy of suddenness and expecting the unexpected. So even though it's kind of a cop-out to say that Uranus is coming out of nowhere, because we can always kind of see what kind of nowhere it's coming out of, Venus conjoining Uranus and Taurus is kind of like, phew, a breath of fresh air. I can finally feel safe, and whoa, I'm feeling safe in this radically new way of diving into energy that supports me in finding comfort and beauty and harmony amidst feminine energy, or women in any way that shows up for you in your life, in a way that is new, unexpected, in a kind of expected way, like it makes sense in hindsight, that feels like I'm upgrading and stepping into a new version of myself. On the 9th, there is then a full moon in Virgo. So the moon in Virgo will be opposite the sun in Pisces. I have a full video on this you can watch down below. But basically this full moon in Virgo is tightly conjunct Neptune. The sun is in Pisces, definitely right on top of Neptune. Neptunian energy is both dreamy, delusional, escapist, and it's explorative. It definitely maximizes the emotional submergence, not necessarily the emotional intensity, but this full moon of culmination will be one of a dream coming to light in a way that we see where we have obscured reality. It's definitely a culmination because full moons are high points of things coming to light. A culmination of more abstraction and feeling rather than logical rationality. So you can watch the whole video down below to understand like the ins and outs. But with the moon opposite Neptune, it's definitely a culmination of how confused we might be feeling about wherever this is showing up in each of our charts. Like I said, if you want to know where this culmination is happening for you, videos are all down below for your individual signs, but also being disposed by this Mercury retrograde because the moon in Virgo, its ruler is Mercury, and Mercury is retrograde in Aquarius without making any actual aspects to other planets, means that we definitely are mentally disconnected, and that gives us a chance to allow all the confusion to emerge without feeling like I need to solve this. It's definitely a time of letting things come to the surface without a definite objective to make meaning out of it, and allowing that the details will come as they need to work themselves out. More of a time of letting go. Take a bath or something. Also on the 9th, so basically at the same time as this full moon, Mercury will station direct at 28 degrees of Aquarius. Full video all about this Mercury retrograde down below if you are still in the midst of this Mercury retrograde when you're watching this, so you can check out. This is like the most informative video I've ever made about anything. Go watch it. But it's definitely, with a stationing direct, it doesn't mean, oh phew, Mercury retrograde is over. It means, okay, we're no longer regressing or going even slower. Instead, we're stopping. We're beginning to facilitate our forward movement in terms of information processing and getting things back on track. So it's not a time of like, phew, we're in the clear. It's more a time of, okay, we're gonna begin slowly and steadily to move forward. So on the 9th, moving ahead into the end of the month, we can expect mercurial matters of information processing and getting sensibility back on track to slowly and steadily start picking up. Mercury will be re-entering Pisces, which is the sign of its exile and its fall, and it's with Neptune, which is like, it's still, Mercury is still in a coma, but it's, the life support is no longer as intense. But Mercury isn't really gonna get its consciousness back until probably April, so still double check, still avoid over-promising plans that you know might be rerouted or delayed. And how is this Mercury retrograde feeling for you while you're watching this, if Mercury is still retrograde, or if you're watching this while Mercury is now slowly picking up the pace? I would love to know if like you're really going through the bullshit, or if you're coming out pretty unscathed. Let me know in a comment down below so we can all see how we're feeling. So nearing the middle of the month, we then have a series of aspects connecting some Pisces planets to some Capricorn planets. On the 10th, the sun in Pisces sextiles Jupiter in Capricorn, which is an aspect of reception. With the sun in Pisces, the sun is then ruled by Jupiter because Jupiter rules Pisces, and Jupiter is actually in its fall in Capricorn. Jupiter is exalted or held up to a very comfortable place in Cancer. So in the opposite sign of Capricorn, Jupiter is hindered in significating what it needs to signify. Its growth and expansion is quite hindered in the Saturn-ruled barrenness. But this is an aspect of reception between the sun and Jupiter, meaning that the sun can see his host. The sun is in an aspect of opportunity with Jupiter. So we have an opportunity to initiate long-term growth and continue on that slow and steady progression. Jupiter in Capricorn rewards what we put in with pretty much a really clear-cut black and white manifestation in the long term. It's not so much like, here, you get a thing, like that Oprah meme where she's like dealing out everything, like you get a card. No, it's not like that. It's more like, okay, you really put in the effort and the mindfulness, not necessarily the hard work, but the smart work towards getting what you want, and you will get that long-term investment back. So this aspect of reception between the Sun and Jupiter is saying, I know what creativity I need to put to the test and harness and really go after. Even if I'm confused about how I'm feeling, I know in general what path I need to take. So even through the haziness, kind of like getting your walking stick and walking through the Neptunian mud, walking through that. Trying to think of a better metaphor, didn't come up with it. My Virgo mind is discouraged. But again, Pisces season, bit hazy, we'll move on. On the 14th, the Sun in Pisces will sextile Pluto in Capricorn. So the Sun in Pisces in an aspect of opportunity between Pluto and Capricorn means there's more intensity, drive, and narrow focus to put towards this. So even as the periphery is pretty blurry and we kind of are lost in terms of where we exactly are on the map, we know that if we keep our nose to the grindstone, we know that if we continue facilitating an aligned purpose, we can put this effort towards good use once we get our head back on our shoulders and are like, yeah, damn right, I did that without even really knowing what I was doing. I just kind of went with the intensity and was like, okay, little by little, task by task, I'm gonna narrow this down. On the 14th as well, Mars in Capricorn will sextile Neptune in Pisces. So Mars is in Capricorn, the sign of its exaltation. Mars does very well in Capricorn because Martian assertivity does very well with the Saturnian boundaries, where Mars can be like, yeah, I'm gonna rein it in and let my warrior nature be a warrior nature of being supportive, pragmatic, and climbing to the top in a way that is sustainable in the long term to pay off. So Mars and Capricorn in an aspect of opportunity, because sextiles are opportunities between two different elements that work well together, is saying that we are able to implement the long-term work towards dreams. Neptune can be this higher god-like abstract dream-like vision, and Mars is super grounded and super goal-oriented in Capricorn. So we're saying, okay, right now, the path is kind of muddy. I don't exactly have my head on my shoulders, but I do still see that light at the end of the tunnel. And so right here and now, I'm gonna make the small steps that'll get me to really bathing in that light at the end of the day. On the 19th, the Sun in Pisces will then sextile Saturn in Capricorn. So the Sun in Pisces is getting an opportunity for us to embody the limits of Saturn in a constructive way, saying, where can I narrow down what isn't gonna facilitate my long-term dream achievement? Where can I say no to what will ultimately say yes to the larger dreams? And where can I be more secure in my personal boundaries of where I'm allowing my thoughts and my dreams to even dive into that are not an energy leak, but instead an energetic foundation to grow upon. On the 19th, Mars will then join Jupiter in Capricorn. So Mars conjoining Jupiter in Capricorn is an interesting conjunction. Conjunctions are the synthesis and blending of the two planetary energies. Mars exalted in Capricorn, it's doing really well. Jupiter at fall in Capricorn, it's not doing so well. I mean, it just doesn't have resources. With this essential dignities, it's just an objective like lack of resources. You can pull it together, but it just takes a bit more work and mindfulness. So Jupiter is accentuating the fact that we are going at this long term. We have our nose to the grindstone. We have that long-term plan that we are kind of following as we veer around the foggy haze. And Jupiter is accentuating the fact that we are committing to this, even if our hopes aren't necessarily high, our dream is still high. And even if we're at a point where emotions are more convoluted, we are still holding the map because we know that that will lead us to the long-term dream in the long term. On the 22nd, Mars will then conjoin Pluto in Capricorn. Pluto is the atomic bomb and the microcosm. It really expands and contracts in kind of a fun house dramatic way. So the situation of what we're going after and what we're achieving might seem much more dramatic than it really is. We might feel either like we have a long way to go or like we're on top of the world, when in reality it probably is not as dramatic as it seems. However, we can use the drama to ground us in truly feeling what these implemented steps feel like and getting our feet on the ground. On the 24th, there is a new moon in Aries. So the full video for this will be linked down below. You can watch the full ins and outs for what this new moon signifies. But the sun and moon are tightly conjunct Chiron in Aries. So even though this is a new beginning, it's kind of a new beginning of feeling how wounded we might be. There might be some egoic growing up to do. The ego is the best servant and the worst leader. So really figuring out what it is that our egoic pain body is being activated by. It can be a really beautiful new new moon around leaning into the triggers and feeling that newness. The full video will go more into like what we can set intentions around and what we can expect for this new moon, but hold space on the end of the month around this new moon for your wounded inner child to arise. Like large scale trauma can be unveiled on the inside, but that doesn't mean that large scale drama has to ensue on the outside. So set your intentions. Again, like I explained in this video here about why I don't practice moon magic, around why you don't want to set your intentions or magical practices on the exact new moon. But once the moon moves into Taurus around the next day or two, then it's a good time to actually set an intention to heal those wounds and find what you can initiate yourself to bring forth safety and reparenting, honestly. On the 27th, then Venus in Taurus will trine Jupiter in Capricorn, which is a really beautiful trine of earth energy. Venus is at home in Taurus, doing really well in bringing harmony to us in a grounded, sensual, earthy way. With the trine to Jupiter in Capricorn, she's getting helped out by our long-term goals. So we're like able to relish in the beauty of things because we know that we deserve that. We know that with the benefics coming together in this really beautiful way, our long-term progress validates why we deserve to reward ourselves, take a break. Nearing the end of the month, definitely cools down some. Like the beginning of the month kind of highlights going after what we need to go after with drunk goggles on. The end of the month is kind of like, I'm feeling much better, I'm settling down with some tea, and I'm ready to heal the internal stuff that's coming up. On the 27th as well, Jupiter is conjoining Pluto in Capricorn. A Jupiter-Pluto conjunction is a year-long transit, basically, that will be happening collectively. It's expanding the drama and highlighting the crisis, for better or for worse, that we can really grow into through vertical transformation if we don't let the crisis eat us alive through trauma drama. So this doesn't have to be like a difficult time, it's just definitely a sobering time of seeing what is expanding based on the choices we've made and what we might need to reroute now on, knowing how large scale some of the choices we've made for the long term are. On the 28th, Venus in Taurus trines Pluto in Capricorn, which is further intensifying how we're getting our needs met. Intense situations with feminine beings, with women in any context, with those who bring you harmony could come up, with caregivers, etc. On the 29th, Mercury finally leaves its shadow at 12 degrees of Pisces, so Mercury is now moving quickly. There's no longer retrogradation or this backwards murkiness. However, Mercury is still in its exile in fallen Pisces, so Mercury is still underwater. So this is still a better time for Mercury to go after poeticizing, non-linear ways of thinking, or abstract ways of communicating, rather than, like, Mercury still is not in a healthy place. It's just no longer like really on drugs. It's in like a halfway house. We still have a couple more weeks until Mercury is up to full significations, but Mercury is not like moving backwards, idealized from our point of view now. Somehow I forgot to mention like the defining transit of March 2020, which is Saturn entering Aquarius and Mars conjoining it. So Saturn will enter Aquarius, its other home sign, and immediately join Mars. So Saturn in Aquarius, I already made a full video on it. You can watch the full thing here. Thankfully I made a video on it since I forgot to include it in this video. But basically Saturn is entering Aquarius to define a new age of air signs, of limitations and parameters around thoughts and ideas, and with it conjoining Mars, these will be exacerbated by some like definite friction around that and the awareness of new limitations in how we think about the structure of reality. You can watch the whole informative video because this is kind of long and lengthy. In this forecast video, I did talk on it, but I misspoke and said that it was happening in Capricorn, so I'm going to cut that out and include the meaningful parts that are useful. Sorry about this little editing interlude. Let's get back to the regularly scheduled programming. Finally, on the 30th, Mars conjoins Saturn. So Mars conjoining Saturn is the two bad guys meeting to team up, and that's not always a bad thing, especially when Saturn is in his own home. So honestly, this can feel like really serious energy, but it's awesome seriousness of feeling like, okay, I'm gonna go here and I'm going to nail in and pinpoint what is 100% hell yes. This is like the ultimate like motorcycle gang going like, we're gonna stick to the course, we are going after what we need to go after, and I am not straying from the path because I take myself and my goals seriously. Mars-Saturn conjoining can indicate pressing the brakes and the gas at the same time and just kind of causing a lot of dust without going forward because you feel very scared and very motivated at the same time. It can also be a great time for setting into stone what you're gonna go after and like preparing yourself at the starting line to not have a false start, but instead go after in a really, really intelligent, articulate way that is not wasting your energy towards being like, okay, the beginning of this month, I was going after what I had set to go after without vision of where I was heading necessarily. Nearing the middle of the month, I kind of had to do some internal work to solve the wounded inner child. End of the month, okay, I'm ready to take off slowly and steadily in like a eco-friendly way of travel that's very sustainable. So that is the astrology for March 2020. As you can see, there's definitely haziness, there's definitely effort, and there's definitely beautiful payoff that we can feel validated based on our effort for what will come to us tenfold once the pace starts picking up again. Let's pull a tarot card for the collective and see what the Rider-Waite tarot deck has in store for us as a word of advice. We have the Hierophant. Beautiful. The Hierophant is associated with Taurus. It is the person of metaphysical and spiritual authority. There's an embodied wisdom about things that aren't flat out, like it's like wisdom about things that aren't just textbook information and embodiment of grounded practicality. So with the Hierophant coming up, I think we can expect this March to be full of philosophical lessons, of embodying what we know our inner wisdom to be asking us to embody, stepping into us being the wise person, like being like, I know that technically no one knows anything and we're all figuring this out and we have no idea what we're doing, but I'm centered and grounded with the dream in mind, which gives me a reason to be doing what I'm doing, and that why and that inner purpose, that inner being is that Hierophant, and we can all connect to that if we both take ourselves seriously and don't take taking ourselves seriously too seriously. That's a good one for this March. Someone should quote that and like make it into a viral spiritual quote. So if you enjoyed this and you would like a private astrology consultation catering to you, check out my consultations. Everything is linked down below. And also check out Rashi if you're looking to post your spiritual services or get your energetic needs met. Otherwise, make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment down below any thoughts that you feel about this March coming up or how it's panning out for you, how this is affecting or coming up for your sign, and how you feel about some of these transits. I'm sending you so much love, so much grounded, dreamy vibes that stay centered and useful this March, and I will see you in the next video.